Hello, everybody. I know it's been a long time since I decided to make a video. There's a lot of happens. Editing, etc., etc. Stuff that I was using wasn't working. I had, the holidays. That was the thing that happened, and of course, all this other stuff that I'm not gonna bore you with the details. But here I am now, and I'd like to speak about a few things. Now, superhero shows, or superhero products in particular. Now, I like to just gobble up any sort of superhero medium that I can. I'm technically making up for it as I'm going, because when I was a wee little bug, I did not have the best of TV. Where I lived and how my living situation was, I only had one channel, maybe two channels at best, and never did we have internet. So you were very limited in what you could get. So any superhero stuff I could get was something off of a movie we could buy, or when they used to do it, Saturday morning cartoons, when they did like Power Rangers or Kim Possible. At the time, I didn't like Kim Possible. I didn't want to admit I liked Kim Possible, because, back then, boys were not supposed to like Kim Possible or something like that. But I look back on it now with a better fondness for it. Now I just gobble up any of the superhero medium because I love superheroes. Marvel, DC, or whatever. Even if I've never had an exposure to the character or the source material in any way, such as The Boys, I've never read the comic. I never did. I've looked into the comic itself, but I never read it before in my life. I didn't even hear about The Boys until the trailers started coming out. Then I went and watched the show, and I was blown away, and I loved that show. What else? Green Arrow, Arrow was a thing. I really wasn't too familiar with Green Arrow at all. My DC history was I knew of Batman, Wonder Woman a little bit, and Superman. Those three I knew, but not some of the other guys. But I knew of the Justice League show, but I only had watched parts of it just because, only one channel, and anything I did see was because I was at someone else's house where they had far superior TV. But that's besides the point. Superhero shows and movies all around. It's the age of superheroes. It's the golden age when everybody is buying up all these properties and trying to use all these characters and teams and these storylines that are iconic in the comic books and try to bring something to the table, Now, CW, they've kind of started getting on they started up doing something ambitious by having this crossover with all of their shows, interconnecting all of them. They all take place in the same universe. And they've kind of been a pioneer to a degree. They've kind of brought in the whole multiverse theme into the mainstream media. When season 2 of The Flash came in, they were doing it and all that. Now, I'll say this. I still watch all the shows for the most part. And I can admit that the shows themselves have certainly not been as high quality as they are back in the day. Now, it's kind of been of a thing. CW, you have to kind of accept that there's going to be some CW-ness formula to it. The characters are a lot of the conflict is based around the characters not actually telling each other the most important thing that they could use, and not acting like normal people. And of course they have to drag out the season storyline for 20 episodes or so. I know it kind of back and forth between 22 and 23 episodes, but I'm gonna just put it at 20 just because that's kind of been the average number. You know, even Legends of Tomorrow is like, it gets close, even though it only ever does like 18 episodes or so. But yeah. But it's like these shows have to follow this formula. And of course CW trying to be in that like more left-ish demographic thing. I don't know, but like they like to do the representation, you know, the diversity, LGBTQ representation and all that, which is fine. I have no problem with adding some representation to it. I think it needs to be done well, and I think it shouldn't. I think they shouldn't like just swap out anything of an original character just to fit this new agenda-esque world to a degree. You know, like I'm still never been big on when, like in some shows and movies, and CW is not the only one, a lot of others have done it, where there's a ginger character or a redhead character in this comic book or whatever, and in the show, the live action equivalent, they turn them into African Americans. I've never been big on that. Now, it's kind of been a theme they've done, but that's besides the point. That's just something I've never been fond of. And then of course CW being CW, you'll have LGBTQ representation in it, and I think like it's fine for the most part. I think it's as long as you don't try to take an original character and just, you know, like that's been this way for the longest time, and then try to like change it up just to change it up. Like, I don't think that works. That's lazy. But besides the point. So CW has this formula, and at the beginning of their shows, like at the beginning when they started doing these shows, they never really were that crazy with the political themes or the correctness to a degree. Like, they might do some episodes that kind of like had this idea or theme in it. Now, it's not to say that a show should never take on a political theme or like a discussion, a topic of discussion. But I think it needs to be done well, because ideally, when you do the superhero show and you want to tackle on a serious matter like race or, you know, freaking like politics or whatnot, you need to have this validity of both sides or whatnot. You need to have it be done right. Now, freaking X-Men, they were an allegory for like racism and whatnot, because, you know, they were all this like diverse, you know, group of characters. You know, they were diverse before it was cool. Stan Lee created this huge lineup of characters, you know, because you had like Storm, you had Kurt, you know, you had all these women characters, you had all these characters from different regions of the world all joining together, and they were all being like hunted down, they were all being hated on because they were being mutants. You know, that worked. You know, they created one of the greatest properties of all time. Even in other stories or whatnot, when they introduce these characters, Iron Man, the Armored Adventures, like when they introduced the X-Men in it for one episode, they perfectly captured it. You know, they even had one of the characters be a little bit not too sure about mutants. You know, like that had a little bit of an interesting theme to it. They went with it. They didn't ham-fist it. Now, CW was always okay at maybe sprinkling it, but it seems kind of like nowadays they kind of got a little overboard on some things. Now, nowadays, everyone's very familiar with like the Batwoman trailer and how that was just balls to the wall, just filled with the craziness. Like, the thing was, I like Ruby Rose as Batwoman. But the thing was, that was in Elseworlds, where she was played pretty confidently, and she had a good style about her. However, I think her solo show just didn't really help anybody. I think the writers just are not doing the best of work there, and it just makes your character be kind of messed up and someone you just rather would slap across the face. Because it's one of the more recent shows that tries to be a little bit too in that political representation aspect of things. Arrow did a whole thing where they talked about guns and self-defense, but it was all pretty easy. Like one of the characters, Renee, otherwise known as Wild Dog, he explained that that the streets are kind of dangerous, and sometimes you want to keep everybody safe. So of course, if a gun means you can keep your family safe, you have a gun. While shootings and stuff happen, it's okay, that's reasonable. They didn't go too far. They just alluded to it. They gave it a little bit of a minute to breathe, and it was okay, that's reasonable. Then then you had other stuff that was a bit more ham-fisted, like season 4 of Supergirl. Now, Supergirl, to me, I always felt was that petri dish of experimentation. That they kind of used Supergirl as this test subject for what they could possibly do in other shows. Now, when CW got a hold of it, it didn't take them long before they started making some changes. Like, Alex Danvers would become gay, which was okay. She discovers she's a closeted lesbian. Okay. I had no problem with it. It's fine. I was just happy to have Supergirl be able to be in the same vein as Flash and Arrow and whatnot. So I was cool with that. But then there's other things they kind of experiment on. It's just since prior to this Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, it was on an entirely different Earth, so it meant that they could do whatever the hell they wanted or attempt to without it affecting the other shows. Now, they only would just see if they could get away with it. So with Alex being gay, that was fine. People didn't mind that. That was cool, And then, it was fine for the most part, having that in there. A little representation. It couldn't hurt anybody. I don't know what her comic book history is like. She was kind of a minor character anyway, so it's sure, fine, why not? And then you get to a later season 4, where it really showed the political bit. People divided over everything, and then you had the bad allegory of the immigration thing with aliens and yada yada yada, and you have extremists that are kind of the fill-in for white nationals, and it's oh god. I think that political theme took over what could have been way better storylines that they tried to do. They had the Red Daughter, which was going to be their variation on the Red Sun storyline, which would have been the most coolest thing they could have done. That would have been interesting, but they don't use her to the best of anyone's ability, and she kind of just dies, and then that's kind of it. And of course they wasted an amazing talent like Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul in Starkiller. They waste him, the guy who played the live-action Doomsday in Smallville, even though people don't really like that one. But it was come on, man, the man had street cred in the superhero game. But sure, let's waste him there. But yeah, I never liked that season. I think that was the worst season for me. Season 2 I didn't like as much, just for other reasons. I think it was just because of how a certain character was portrayed and how they were trying to make him seem all good and whatnot, even though he's not. That was just my opinion on the matter. But yeah, Arrow kind of started declining, but it was not due to a politicalness, it was more due to a quality of the show. And they kind of got a little bit too carried away with the whole Team Arrow thing when they started adding in all these other characters, and now they have to like try to mix and match and balance out all these characters' storylines in the show, even though it should be about the one character the show is named after. Now it's fine for the character to have a supporting cast and they get like their own smaller storylines in it. However, I think it needs to be done right, and it needs to ensure that like the focus should not always be on these side characters, But that's just me. But that's just the problem with the formula. Especially in the later seasons of Arrow, they just started going crazy, And I think some people will say they started listening to the fans, and to a particular group of fans. Not all of them. They just listen to a section of the fans, and they just try to appeal that group. And then it like really went out the window. Like first 2 seasons, great. Season 3, no. Season 4, yeah, that wasn't good at all. Season 5 was a great like return to form. It was a immaculate piece of work. Season 6, well, I think it was okay for the most part. But season 7, it dropped the ball again because, they tried to focus a little bit too much on Richard Dragon and all that, and they waste other great characters like the Longbow Hunters and Silencer. It didn't really work out there. Now, then you have like other shows that I think are just do fine. Legends of Tomorrow, they get away with just being fucking crazy because they don't care. Because it's like, it's superheroes time traveling, and they just don't care. Like, it's just like they're gonna just do whatever they want, and it just oddly works. It's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. I would say Doctor Who, but the thing is, I never watched an episode of Doctor Who in my life, so I don't know how it works. But it's like the show just acts crazy. It just has that certain vibe, and it just works for it, And it's gone on pretty well for it. Black Lightning, I think Black Lightning kind of gets away with the political thing because it's more reasonable and understandable for this group of characters. Because Black Lightning and his family, they're all African Americans, and it's like, okay, reasonable. It's reasonable that they would put in this bit of a theme with the race difficulties, yada yada yada. I gave it a pass because it's like, all right, the characters have the main characters kind of will have to deal with this every now and then. Okay, cool, works for me. But I think the formula of the CW just doesn't. I think the CW formula is kind of starting to become, or has become, a bit more outdated, because nowadays you have these shows that they're a bit more shorter seasons, but the episodes are longer. So it's like you have these hour-long episodes without commercials, because most of them are on streaming platforms, and then they regardless of their upload schedule, some of them will do the classic Netflix thing and upload them all at the same time, or they'll do it like Disney Plus did, or Disney Plus and the DC Universe app did, where they just put them an episode at a time, but still, it all works. Now, it worked better for them. Now, while there's some quality on some of their shows have not been the best, at least they're attempting a different formula to the show, other than what CW did. Because, as I said, you have these 20 episodes of 45 minutes, a half hour at the best, when you get rid of all the commercials, of all these characters trying to do all these certain things, and of course you have to try to stretch out this story for X amount of time, and I don't know, it just doesn't. I don't think it used to be good, but now it's kind of just gotten a bit old. I think it's when you see quality good stuff, like The Boys, or it's not technically a superhero show, but it fits in the realm of it, like The Mandalorian, or stuff from the DC Universe app, when you see Doom Patrol and stuff. When you see all these shows that just tackle the stuff in way better ways, and the fact that they're like shorter seasons, like they have half the episodes that freaking like Arrow or The Flash would have, and yet they somehow are able to perfectly get through the season storyline to the most part, and even be able to have a filler episode, or just a episode that's not focused on the main story, and just work on it. Now, like, I don't know. I think that just the formula of the CW shows needs to evolve. It needs to change. Like, I get that, they've gotten this far enough, but it's like, the world's changing. The world's always been changing. We're always changing. And it's like, now with this whole political correctness thing, that's kind of like, that we're starting to kind of see the pendulum start to swing the other way. Now, am I saying that it's going to happen within this year? I don't know. I think we're approaching the tail end, because it's like people are starting to, like, the businessmen behind the shows are realizing that they can't keep doing the political thing because it's not gonna help them with their money. And that's what they do. They make these shows to get your money. They get the ratings. The ratings means money to them. And it's like they're gonna have to adjust it. Okay, they'll see this go, and then they'll adjust accordingly to make sure that they always have money. Now, I think the formula of the show should be a bit different. I think I really kind of, as much as I don't want to really dwindle on the DC Universe app and the whole streaming thing, I feel like the shows should be moved there. I think they should be moved there. They should have a different team of writers that can handle these characters way better. I think for some of the shows, they're castless. I think they need to cut down the roster significantly. Like, say, The Flash. It's like you have him, you have Caitlin, you have Cisco Ramon, you have Joe, you have Iris, maybe Cecile, but you have just those characters. You don't add in like Ralph Dibny and like Cisco's girlfriend and this other chick that just popped in, and then Harrison Wells, who also shows up as a different character in every other show because he loves playing different variations of himself. Like, you can't have all of that as one team and expect me to like try to go for it. You gotta cut down the limit. Arrow kind of had the same thing because it used to be, it was just Oliver, and then you had Felicity and Diggle. Then they added Roy, which was fine. And then things got a little bit more crazier when they started adding Laura, which was fine. That was the limit. Then it just kind of got a little bit crazy when like they would add in a whole new team, But then two of them left. One of them became a traitor, and the other one just left and never came back to the show again. And then you added another character, and then like all this, and another character comes in, but then only leaves later on. It's like the shows need to evolve. They need to adapt. I think, like, I'm not expecting too much. I just think they need to adjust the formula a lot. I think the shorter season thing can work. I think you could take that formula that has been done by Netflix or HBO, that you can do these shorter seasons, like with the 10 or the 12 episode format, I think. Although people like to say that it's better to do like 8 or 10. Like, I don't mind if it's in that like 12 or 13 episode thing, as long as the season is good. So it's like, I think they need to follow that formula, and like the episodes become longer, Like, Game of Thrones got away with it even until the very end, when they had entire hour-and-a-half episodes in their season. And like, I think they need to be given that. They need to be given writers who are not gonna like focus too much on the politicalness thing. Like, I think they need to just get like, I just come to the superhero show to watch my superheroes punch some supervillains in the face and do crazy shit. I don't want to come in here to watch a documentary or a retrospective or whatever on what's happening in the world. I get that enough by watching the news. I don't need that in my superhero show. That's just my opinion on it. Take it as you will. Respect the fact that I have an opinion. I will respect the fact that you have one, even if I don't agree with said opinion. Now, I think that's about it. I think they just need to adjust the formula, move the shows to DC Universe, you know, get different writers, you know, shorten the seasons out, put the episodes at a longer length, you know, just give it a better change up and drop the political themes. I think that should be just dropped completely, because we did not come here to watch a show just to get told about how the world is today. I don't need that. But that's just my 2 cents, and that's what you all came in here to hear. So I'd like to thank you all for coming in and listening to me ramble on for about 20 minutes or so. Put your 2 cents in the comments below what you think about the Arrowverse shows and the CW TV formula. You know, just let me know what you think about it. I'd like to thank you all for coming by. I hope to see you all again in the next upcoming video, whatever that may be. And I will catch you all then. Thank you.